All right, guys, so now we're going to get into classes, which are, as I said before, classes are not part of the core JavaScript language, but the class syntax was added in the ES6 update in 2015. So basically, we can write classes, which makes things a lot easier, in my opinion, but under the hood, this is still happening. We're still having a constructor. We're still having prototype methods. So any methods we put in our class are actually put on the prototype. So if we take a look at this, this is basically what we've been doing up to this point. And I instantiated our new rectangle. I just called it square. So square is just the name of the variable and the name of the rectangle, just because both the height and the width are the same. And if I log this rectangle, you'll see that it has height, width, name, and in the prototype we have the area, is square, log area, and perimeter. So that's what's going on here. We already know that. Now I want to recreate this with a class and class methods and show you that it does the same exact thing. So let's clear this up. Actually, I'm going to keep the instantiation, just get rid of the prototype methods and the constructor function. And when we create a class, we use the class keyword, and then whatever we want to call it, let's call it rectangle. And then we open some curly braces. And the first thing we're going to put in here is a constructor function that works very similar to the regular JavaScript constructor function. I should call this a constructor method. So let's say constructor. And before I even put anything in here, like before I assign any properties, I just want to do a console log here and say ran. So if I save this, what happens is this constructor is always going to run whenever you instantiate a new object, right? Even if I created another one, like let's call this square 2, if I save, you'll see that it runs twice, right? Because every time you instantiate a new object, that constructor method runs. And it's like that with most languages that use classes. So the constructor is used for a lot of things, but essentially it's used just like a regular constructor function. It takes in our properties. So let's say name, width, and height. And then just like a regular constructor function, we have access to the this keyword, which again will pertain to that instance. So we'll say this.name is going to equal the name that's passed in. Same with the width. So let's say width, and same with the height. Okay, so you can see this looks very familiar to what we've already been doing. It's just wrapped in a class. So if I go ahead and save that, you'll see that when we instantiate the object, right, called it square, console logged it, and we have an object, a rectangle object with the 3 properties, and we have a prototype. If we look in that prototype, we have a constructor. So this constructor is put in the prototype just like it normally would. It does say class in front of rectangle. All right, and that also inherits just the regular object prototype, the object base. Now, if I want to add a method to this, I simply add it within the class. So let's say area. Now, very important, we don't do this. We don't say function area. Okay, you can see that gives me an error. When you have a class method, we don't use the function keyword. Now, within the method, I have access to this. So I want to just return this dot height times this dot width. Okay, and then if I want to use that area, I can say console log square dot area, just like I would if I manually added it to the prototype. And just to show you, let's see, comment that out, just to show you that area is on the prototype, let's just log square. And now if we look in our prototype, there's the area method. You could also just do a console log of object.get get prototype of, and then pass in the variable of square. And there's our prototype that has the area and constructor. All right, so let's go ahead and just add a couple other methods here. So we're going to add perimeter. So perimeter is going to return 2 times, and then it's going to be the width. So this width plus this dot height. That'll be the perimeter. let's add a is square. So is square is just going to return true or false based on if the width and the height are the same. So this dot width is equal to this dot height. So let's try that. Say perimeter and is square, which it should be. It's called square. All right, so we get 80 for the perimeter, and we get true for our is square. If I change this to whatever, 21, then we're going to get false for is square. And once again, if we look at the prototype, all those methods are going to be on the prototype. So the last thing I want to show you is that in addition to using the this keyword to access properties, you can also use it to access other methods. So let's create let's say we want to have a log area method, and we just want to do a console log from here, and we'll say the rectangle area and then a colon, and then we'll just concatenate the area, which we can get with the area method, and we can access that with the this keyword. So actually this is wrong, we want to do this. So if I say this dot area, and then let's come down here and we'll say, actually we don't need to console log because we're doing it from the method, so we just need to do a square dot and then log area. If I do that, we get rectangle area 400. So there'll be a lot of times where you'll be using methods that are internal to the class, methods that you don't need the user of the class to know about. And that comes back down to abstraction, right? When you use a TV, you need to know the power button, things like that, the channel changer, but you don't need to know the inner components. So a lot of times your class will have methods that the user of it doesn't need to know about. All right. So in the next video, I want to look at inheritance using classes and subclasses, which to me is a lot easier than using prototypes and constructor functions. So we're going to get into that next.